Let's be honest, nothing boosts confidence quite like great hair. But if you're seeing more strands in the shower, your confidence might not be at its highest. And that's why you need Hers Hair. Hers Hair treatments are made with doctor-trusted prescription ingredients that many other hair products out there just don't have. They come in a variety of options, including oral and topical solutions, so you can find the one that works for you. And they even have options with added hair vitamins and supplements for extra support. Getting started is simple with a quick online hair quiz. Just answer some questions and you will be connected with a provider to discuss your personalized treatment plan. And through Hers, everything is 100% online. So no pharmacy trips, doctor's office visits, or insurance required. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/KKC. That's forhers.com/KKC for your personalized hair loss treatment options. forhers.com/KKC. Individual results may vary. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. As the temperature starts rising, I feel that familiar urge to refresh my closet, but I'm not wasting money on pieces that I'll only wear once or for just one season. Quince changes that. Their clothes are timeless, lightweight, and far more elevated than anything else at this price. It finally feels like my wardrobe matches my standards. Like 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30, luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part? Everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury, but without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. For example, my favorite thing to get right now, 100% organic cotton cropped cardigan. Get it in vintage rose. Give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince. Go to quince.com/KKC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/KKC to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KKC.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. For this episode, listener discretion is strongly advised. This episode contains discussions of sexual abuse and institutional neglect, and I wanted to make sure you had a forewarning. Today's episode is about Surviving Ohio State on HBO. Ohio State University is one of the largest and most prestigious public universities in the United States. Founded in 1870, it has built a reputation not only for academic excellence, but also for a powerhouse athletic program, especially in football, wrestling, and gymnastics. The Buckeyes are a central part of the school's identity, with a sports culture so deeply woven into the fabric of Ohio life that Saturdays in the fall are practically a state holiday. But behind the roaring stadiums, Olympic dreams, and championship banners lies a devastating story, one of betrayal, silence, and systemic failure. This episode covers the decades-long abuse carried out by Dr. Richard Strauss, a team doctor at Ohio State, who exploited his position to sexually abuse hundreds of male students and athletes, all while the university and its leaders failed to stop him. These survivor experiences that went unchecked, and the investigation into one of the largest sexual abuse scandals in U.S. college history is revealed in this documentary. Now, if this sounds tragically familiar, it should. As you know, on this show, I've covered stories of athletes whose lives were upended by abuse and betrayal. In episode 444, I interviewed former Olympic gymnastics champion Dominique Dawes, who discussed Golden, the journey of USA's elite gymnasts on Peacock TV, which was that 6-part docuseries chronicling the journey of 5 elite American gymnasts as they headed into the trials. And it gave a glimpse of those rarely seen moments that those high-level athletes endure in their training, their personal lives, and competitions, and how toxic the culture can be. And then in episode 660, I interviewed Rachel Den-Hollander, who became internationally known in 2016 as the first woman to pursue criminal charges and speak publicly against Larry Nassar. This story, however, is about all male victims. In October of 2020, John Wertheim's Sports Illustrated article was entitled, "Why Aren't More People Talking About the Ohio State Sex Abuse Scandal?" Now, Dr. Richard Strauss was accused of abusing more than 350 male students and athletes between 1978 to 1998 and engaging in over 1,400 instances of fondling and 47 rapes. Most of those athletes that were victims didn't entirely grasp until later in their lives that they had been assaulted and raped. Mark Coleman, for example, was a native of Fremont, Ohio, an All-American wrestler at Miami of Ohio before he transferred to Ohio State in the fall of 1986 for his senior season. Now, having played competitive sports his entire life, he had experienced enough preseason athletic physicals to know the minor discomfort that they entailed, but he was completely unprepared for what came as he stood alone in a room with Dr. Strauss. And he was, at the time, the official doctor for 5 OSU sports programs and consulting physicians for at least 10 others. And in the article, he came forward about what happened and noted that when he went back to practice and inquired about Dr. Strauss, his questions were greeted with jokes. They had names for him. And he had lurked during practices, sat naked on locker room benches, and then would even shower alongside the athletes. But it was just sort of a joke to everyone. As Mark would explain later to a reporter, when he was new on campus, new to the wrestling program, and there's this doctor who was the team doctor, as a varsity athlete on scholarship, he wasn't inclined to, as he put it, stir stuff up. And like most OSU athletes, he didn't fully process what had been a sexual assault. For one, it was the late 80s, still an era for sexual assault awareness that lacked, much less same-gender assault, and when comprehension and vocabulary didn't exist. We never thought a man could sexually abuse a man, says Mark. We played it off, we joked about it, but I don't think we were really joking. Mark was also confused, ashamed, and embarrassed, and was trying to balance sports and studies, inclined to believe and trust the team doctor. This guy controlled my future, he recalled. We all put up with it, and for me it was just clear me so I can go win an NCAA title and make the Olympic team. He went on to win the NCAA wrestling title in 1988 and would compete in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, finishing 7th, and reinvented himself as a fearsome mixed martial arts fighter nicknamed the Hammer, who had become the UFC's first heavyweight champion. But as he explained to John in that Sports Illustrated article, he was always haunted by Dr. Strauss. What do you do when you're an athlete, in the first independent experience of your life, and reliant on your scholarship when the person who has violated you and controls your life as an athlete? Also, as John was told by several sources, Dr. Strauss's distribution of banned and illegal drugs gave him a significant leverage over many athletes and potentially some coaches, likely helping to conceal his abuses. He was considered a pioneer even in the field of steroids. Dr. Strauss's victims would go on to play in the NFL and fight in the cages of UFC, and they included athletes in tennis and wrestling and others. For 2 decades, though his abuse continued to be unchecked, his position as a doctor allowed him to cloak his assault as legitimate treatment, mirroring the tactic of Dr. Larry Nassar as he preyed on gymnasts. He was not only certified by OSU, but he became a member of the Medical Commission of the International Olympics Committee. He was a gatekeeper. Athletes were required his clearance before they could play their sport, and often the reason they were at OSU. Now, what about the other coaches, namely the wrestling coach? Well, many former wrestlers have alleged that the former wrestling coach, Russ Hellickson, was aware of complaints about his behavior, including unnecessary genital exams, groping, and voyeurism in showers and locker rooms. He has publicly acknowledged that he confronted university officials about Dr. Strauss's behavior at least once. Now, in interviews, he claimed he told administrators that Strauss's actions made athletes uncomfortable and that they needed to be addressed. But despite this, Hellickson has been accused of minimizing the abuse and pressuring athletes not to speak out. Some survivors say he discouraged them from filing formal complaints or going public. And he later stated in an ESPN interview, "We knew there were some things that you just didn't talk about because nothing was going to be done." In a 2019 report by the law firm Perkins Coie, Hellickson is mentioned multiple times as someone who knew about Dr. Strauss and failed to take meaningful action. The independent investigation found that several athletic department staff, including assistant wrestling coaches, were aware of concerns or rumors about Dr. Strauss. Survivors have alleged that some coaches joked about his behavior in front of athletes, contributing to a culture of normalization and silence. However, none of the assistant coaches have faced public disciplinary action or offered substantial public statements. Their roles were largely outlined in survivor testimonies and internal documents rather than formal charges. Now, Jim Jordan, who is now a U.S. congressman from Ohio, has been repeatedly accused by former wrestlers of knowing about his abuse and doing nothing. He was an assistant coach at the time. At least 6 former OSU wrestlers have said publicly that Jim Jordan was aware of what Dr. Strauss was doing in the locker room and during exams, but he has denied any knowledge of abuse and called the allegations a hit job. This has become a political flashpoint with some former wrestlers defending him and others calling him out for failing to protect him, so he says. Well, one wrestler, Mike DiSabato, was particularly vocal in saying that Jim Jordan knew and chose to look away. The university's failure wasn't limited to coaches. Medical staff, athletic trainers, and multiple university administrators were aware of complaints over the years, yet no one removed Strauss from his position or launched a meaningful investigation during his tenure. He retired in 1998 with full honors. And John Wertheim's reporting not only brought decades of abuse into the public eye, but also ignited legal accountability and inspired this documentary, which is amplifying survivors' voices. Why was Dr. Strauss's abuse swept under the rug? What is the reason for the systemic inaction? At the time, there was a strong cultural reluctance to challenge authority figures, especially doctors and athletic staff. And many athletes, particularly in the 70s through the 90s, were taught to obey coaches and medical staff without question. Dr. Strauss was seen as a university figure with medical authority, making it intimidating or confusing for young men to challenge or report his conduct. So former athletes and students have said that when they did report Dr. Strauss's behavior, they were laughed off and told it was part of a routine exam or dismissed, or that they were exaggerating it. And complaints when raised were not formally documented or acted upon by administrators. And in some cases, students were allegedly told, that's just how Dr. Strauss is. So this is a very powerful documentary. It is called Surviving Ohio State. And again, this explores the systemic failures. The athletic department, particularly under prominent figures like the wrestling coach and others, had a vested interest in shielding the program. The school made quite a bit of money. There were few mechanisms for reporting abuse, and existing processes were often opaque or intimidating. Victims had no clear recourse and feared retribution. And the university had no robust system of sexual misconduct policy in place to adequately address male victims or physician misconduct. Also, again, they were male athletes, another factor that brought on that shroud of secrecy. The notion that the alphas of the campus, these all-American wrestlers and NFL-bound football players, could be sexually abused by a man, it was unthinkable. So this is based on John Wertheim's groundbreaking Sports Illustrated article. Surviving Ohio State is an absolute must-watch this week on HBO, and I was thrilled that I got a chance to interview Eva Orner, the director. Here is my interview. Isn't it so nice to escape to a place that truly feels like yours? I was planning to update my backyard, and there's just something about a beautiful outdoor space that's so satisfying. It's like your own backyard oasis. Wayfair's got everything you need to level up your outdoor space. They have patio sets and lounge chairs, outdoor bars and hot tubs, fire pits, gazebos, and of course, string lights. It's so easy to have a one-stop where you can make over your entire space with a resort feel without that resort price tag. I looked at patio chairs and lights, and it felt like they had every color and style. And then I placed my order, and it came back so quickly, much faster than I would have expected. So now, here I am, with patio furniture that is so relaxing in my little oasis. No more huge delivery fees for patio furniture. You can get big stuff and more shipped for free. So don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair, and you can enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. This is my favorite time of the year. Outside activities like hiking, swimming, and sports. I'm going to be spending a lot of time at the beach and the pool, and it's more important than ever to be hydrated. It's peak hydration season, and Liquid IV is the perfect companion for your hottest summer plans. They've just launched an exhilarating new flavor, Arctic Raspberry. Plus, Liquid IV has sugar-free solutions for smart hydration. You can explore the delicious sugar-free options including white peach, lemon lime, rainbow sherbet, and more. Plus, discover more fun flavors like cotton candy or popsicle firecracker. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. No matter what your summer brings, tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I understand this project took about 4 years to make. I first wondered how this story found you.
Yeah, I think it's about 3.5 years, but I could be 4. It's longer than normal. The project came to me through my agents, and I initially thought the project maybe wasn't for me. I wasn't the right director for it. As a woman, as an Australian who grew up in Australia and didn't know much about college football or college life in America at all. And I just thought maybe this wasn't for me. And I'd recently done another abuse film about Bikram, the yoga guru, for Netflix. And I felt, my overall gut reaction, which is what you go with as a filmmaker, was maybe this is not the project for me. And I spoke with John Wertheim, who wrote the initial article on which this is based. And he asked me to speak with some of the survivors because he thought I was the right director. And I had 3 conversations with survivors. And by the end of the third one, I had changed my mind. I was so moved by what they told me. They all told me that they had said things to me they'd never said before. And I suddenly thought maybe there's something in being an outsider. Maybe it's a good thing being a woman to tell this story. And that was the unlikely beginning to making this film.
When did Ohio State first learn of concerns about Dr. Strauss, and what was their initial response?
It's very complicated. I think it's hard to sort of talk about because it's very complicated and we outline it very well in the film. But ultimately, the men first spoke out about this publicly in 2018. And in the last 7 years, what has come out through depositions and mainly actually through depositions and through an investigative report that the university conducted is that the university knew that over the 20 years that Dr. Strauss was a sports doctor there were multiple complaints from students and athletes and that nothing was done by the university. And that's really one of the key points to this story, that OSU knew and they did nothing.
How do you think that the culture of the athletic department and the student health services helped shield him from these consequences?
I don't want to speculate at all about things like that. It was a 20-year period. There were a lot of different athletic directors. There were a lot of different staff. But for some reason, there was what seems to be a cover-up at the university. And I don't know if it was systematic. I don't know what the internal conversations were. All we have is the documentation, and we have documentary evidence that students complained and nothing was done. When Dr. Lombardo is asked about this in a deposition that we got hold of, he was aware and didn't do anything. And I think that's the most damning sort of tip of the iceberg to this story. And there is a court case pending, and there will be discovery and more depositions done. And I think that's when a lot of this information will come out to a further extent.
How difficult was it for you to get people to come forward? You mentioned the 3 gentlemen, the additional participants in this documentary. Was it hard for them to come forward? Did it take some time?
Yeah, I mean, these sort of films are really difficult. And there were some people that have spoken out before, and there were some people that haven't. And it's never a given that people want to go on camera and talk about things that are so difficult. And I think I spoke to probably about close to 100 survivors.
Wow.
And most of them don't want to go on camera. Their families may not want them to do it. It's such a big thing to do. It's such a risky thing to do. They all have partners, they have children, they have families. You go on a film like this and it's out there forever. And so I completely respect people not wanting to participate. A lot of them are John Does in the legal cases that are ongoing. So I always come back to, when you make a film like this, the people that decide to trust you and that go on this journey with you and tell their story publicly are just incredibly brave. And I have so much respect.
How does it complicate it when the subject is deceased, when you tell a story like this?
It's really hard. Dr. Strauss is, we say, Colleen Marshall, one of the journalists in the film, says this in the film. She says, Dr. Strauss was an enigma. There is so little of him available. When we started the project, all the news reports that have been done share the same 3 or 4 images of him, and that's all that we could find. And it was so frustrating. And over the course of the 4 years, we have an amazing team and an incredible archive producer. And she was able to find some photos that we'd never seen before of Dr. Strauss in black and white examining patients. We found a clip of him talking on a late night news show about steroids. We found him in the background of old VHS wrestling matches and Ohio sports events with his camera kind of clicking. They're really bad quality and murky. And basically everything that we found, we were able to use. But it's interesting because he was a photographer. He took photos of everyone all the time. He was always at sporting events, lurking around, according to the survivors. But there's very little photographic evidence of him. And I think that was intentional. He was shadowy. He was lurking in the shadows. I think it's not unusual for predators to do that. But it was very frustrating.
You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. Where you're planning beach trips, barbecues, and 3-day weekends, your wireless bill should be the last thing holding you back, and that's why so many are switching to Mint Mobile. With plans starting at $15 a month, Mint Mobile gives you premium wireless service on the nation's largest 5G network. The coverage and speed that you're used to, but way less money. So while your friends are sweating over data overages and surprise charges, you're going to be chilling, literally and financially. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Think about how much you're going to be saving with Mint Mobile. With all these kids in my house, I'm looking at different phone options, and this is a steal. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/realitylife. That's mintmobile.com/realitylife. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. There are so many things in life we just never get around to. Taking up that hobby, cleaning out the garage, the little things that don't really make huge differences in our lives. Yet, there's one thing that most of us have probably been neglecting that can have a huge impact on our family's future. It's life insurance. And with SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is easier and more affordable than you may think. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. If you have high blood pressure, no problem. If you have diabetes, that's fine too. And even if you have heart disease, SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and others. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote, they shop and you save. So get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/realitylife. Go to selectquote.com/realitylife today and get started. That's selectquote.com/realitylife. His family, did anybody provide any context for you on his earlier life that give us some sort of context for how he led the life that he did?
Yeah, so he has an ex-wife who is very old and still alive and a son. And when the scandal broke in 2018, they released a very brief statement. They did not know about this and they supported the investigation. And they have not spoken to the press since. I actually, after, I think it took about 2 years, I actually had an off-record, very long conversation with Dr. Strauss's son, but I can't talk about it. I think the only thing I could say is when the scandal broke, they had no idea and it was a complete shock to them. You can imagine the effect it had on their lives. But yeah, so he's never spoken with the journalist. We had an incredible conversation and I wish I could reveal about all of these things about him, but I can't. And that's one of the complicated things about this film. It's very different to, say, the Larry Nassar scandal, where he was alive and he was put on trial and the survivors were able to face him down in court. This is very unsatisfactory, I think, in a lot of ways. There's no real closure for the survivors.
And then the last part of it where it's revealed that Jim Jordan was an assistant coach, that really threw me for a loop. Obviously, you did not get access to him through this project. Do the victims that you spoke to feel completely betrayed by him, given his public statements?
Yeah, I think that's made really clear in the film that when they came out in 2018, there was quite a bit of backlash, which they didn't expect. One of the things we talk about in the film is the betrayal of the coaches. And through the independent investigation, it was revealed that many coaches did know about what was happening with Strauss, the open secret of abuse that was occurring at OSU for 2 decades. And both Russ Hellickson, who was the wrestling coach, and Jim Jordan, who was the assistant wrestling coach, have failed to stand up for the survivors. And I think that's been one of the really difficult things for a lot of the men, because they were like family. They really looked up to both Russ Hellickson and Jim Jordan. And they repeatedly, many of them state how and that both of the coaches knew what was going on, did nothing, and now won't speak up for the survivors. And I think that's been really, really painful. And we tried to, I approached both Russ and Jim to interview for the film, but they both declined.
I think that the overall feeling that I have is just gratitude for all of these men to come forward. I mean, I think over the years, we've come to understand the shame that comes with men that have been abused, especially in the athletic realm. And I can imagine how hard it was for them to come forward. And I really appreciate the care that you took. It's very obvious that they felt a safe place to tell their stories. And I can only hope and imagine that this is going to free a lot of people who have had similar experiences. So this is really a job well done.
Thank you so much. And I completely agree with your sentiment about these men who are in the film are so brave, and I have the utmost respect for them. And it's been a complete honor and privilege to tell their story. It's been an honor, of my life to tell this story. They mean so much to me.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my fantastic guest and remind you to click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review and join the Facebook group Reality Life with KKC. Then make sure you check out my What to Watch list at katecasey.substack.com. You can get bonus episodes on Apple Podcast or on Patreon at patreon.com/KKC. And follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KKCCA, TikTok it's KKC, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at @KKC. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.
In the first half of the 20th century, one woman changed adoption in America. What was once associated with the shame of unmarried mothers became not only acceptable, but fashionable. But Georgia Tann didn't help families find new homes out of the goodness of her heart. She was stealing babies from happy families and selling them for profit. Hi, I'm Lindsey Graham, the host of Wondery show American Scandal. We bring to life some of the biggest controversies in U.S. history, presidential lies, environmental disasters, corporate fraud. And in our latest series, a young adoption worker moves to Memphis, Tennessee, and becomes one of the most powerful women in the city. By the time her crimes are exposed, decades later, she's made a fortune and destroyed hundreds of families along the way. Follow American Scandal on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Experience all episodes ad-free and be the first to binge the newest season only on Wondery Plus. You can join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Start your free trial today.